Hello and welcome to Middlebury Edition. I'm Middlebury Representative Robin Scheu, your host for the program. Middlebury Edition was created primarily for the purpose of educating Middlebury residents about local services and activities and to provide an opportunity for local nonprofit organizations to talk about their work. Today's guest is Jessica Danyow, Executive Director for Homeward Bound, Addison County's Humane Society. According to their website, Homeward Bound is a private and independent open admission shelter dedicated to protecting the well-being of homeless, abandoned, and abused or neglected animals. But there is so much more to it than that, as we will learn. So I'm glad to have Jess on the show with us today. And Jess has a special guest with her. We have a special guest with us, a 4-month-old pup named Bean. We'll hear more about him soon. So welcome, Jess and Bean.
You. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. So I mentioned a little bit from your website, but do you want to tell me a little bit more about what Homeward Bound's mission is?
Absolutely. We revised our mission about 2 years ago in response to a strategic plan, and we revised it with an eye toward our role in the community and what we could do to support people and their pets. So our current mission is to be a community-centered shelter that supports the human-animal bond through compassionate care, through adoption, education, and advocacy. So everything from compassionate care to pups like Bean to advocating on municipal and state levels for animal welfare.
That sounds great, and it does make me think about what you do. It seems like a better description than what I pulled off the website
It makes
for
me
sure.
think I need to update the website.
Probably, because I think
it's always the case.
I think, and we'll talk about this, the well-being of the adopters and the humans who are taking care of these animals.
Yeah.
That's pretty important too, because that has a direct effect on the animals themselves.
Yes, it does.
So
Yeah, there's
So
no such thing as an animal without a person attached.
Yeah.
When we're talking domestic animals.
So because I know everybody's going to have their eyes on Bean
Yeah.
right now, why don't you
Hi.
tell us the story of how Bean came to you?
Of course. Bean is up for adoption. He's in a foster care home right now, but he can easily have arrangements for visitors if anyone is interested. He's a 4-month-old neutered male. Bean came to us with his 6 siblings and mother in the beginning of September. And he came, the phone rang one morning, and it was someone who identified himself as a long-distance truck driver who had picked up a Bean and Bean's siblings at a Florida truck stop. One of those huge concrete jungles full of semi-truckers. And Bean and his siblings and mom were wandering around. This person picked them up, and we're not quite sure how they got from down there to up here, but it doesn't matter to us. What mattered to us is that Bean and his siblings needed help and needed a place to go. So we took them all in. They had some medical needs when they arrived, but they've all been addressed. 2 or 3 of Bean's siblings have been adopted, and the rest are in foster care along with Mama.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's 4 months old.
He's about 4 months old.
Oh, yes.
He is, we don't know what he is. His mother is a beautiful red color, like a red deer color. She's, I think, a Shar-Pei Lab pit mix. But looking at little Bean here, it's very hard to think there wasn't a hound dog in somewhere in his past.
Yeah.
Very sweet puppy, well socialized with other dogs, cats, and kids. Not so well trained yet on leash behavior, collar behavior, and house training. Still working on those things. Yeah.
So that gets me to, I'm going to jump around here a little bit, about how adoption works with you and, what you're looking for in an adopter, and do you ever refuse an adoption?
Absolutely. And if I might, I can also speak briefly to how adoptions work logistically, because the pandemic did bring some operational changes about. What we are doing now is setting up appointments for visiting animals, and we're scheduling those individually so that we no longer have people walking in during open hours and going through the kennels and looking at everybody. We'll talk to adopters over the phone and via email, and then set an appointment to look at the dogs that they're interested in. This actually has a welfare benefit for the dogs in the shelters. The ones in the kennels are already living a life of pretty high stress levels, high cortisol levels. And when we would have casual visitors walking through the kennels and feeding biscuits and saying hello, it was lots of fun for the visitors, but there's research out there that shows that was very stressful for shelter dogs, literal spikes in cortisol that would then take hours to reduce and, kind of putting them under chronic stress.
Sure.
So now by bringing the animals out individually, we avoid that. So that's the logistics of adopting. If anyone is interested, they should just call the shelter and set up an appointment, or go online to our Adopt Me page. That's the nuts and bolts of adopting, but it's not the work of adopting. The work is finding a match between the animals that we have at the shelter and the families looking for homes. And I see our job as trying to find out as much as we can about the people looking for pets, and then building a bridge between their expectations, their ability to provide what the pet needs, and going from there. So for example, with Bean, as cute as he is, there's a lot of work involved in this little guy right now before he's able to be, left alone at home while a family goes to work, or trustworthy in the backyard. So he's a pup that, we're looking for a family who is ready to invest. I mean, if anyone who's had a dog knows, it's like having another small child. And it can be, a couple of years, or at least a year. So, but that's puppy syndrome. We want to make sure that people aren't adopting based on a preconceived notion or based on the physical appearance of an animal. We're all attracted to different kinds of animals, colors, markings, length of coat. But what's really important is that there's the best possible chance for a successful placement. That the family is willing to endure or can manage what perhaps
So cute.
perhaps what problems the challenges, not problems, challenges the animal might have. A great example is that a common behavior in dogs, and a perfectly natural behavior in dogs, is to guard the resources that they have. It comes down in their genetics, bones, food, treats, people, couches. Every dog has it to some extent, and it is perfectly natural. Some dogs have it to a greater degree. Some dogs so much so that it's a behavior you need to constantly be aware of, and you need to, be able to have a setup, a lifestyle where when the dog is eating, he's left alone, and then the food bowl is taken away and the problem is managed. So, for example, a dog like that would not have a very good chance of success in a home with maybe 3 preteen children who are running in and out with all their friends, and not knowing the sanctity of that particular rule for managing the dog's success. So that's just one of infinite examples I could give about the match. We want people to think about long-term as well. Little Bean here, with any luck, has a decade plus in whatever family adopts him. And it's easy to sometimes think, oh, well, I can adopt now, the school year's ending, and I'll have lots of time this summer. But then you need to look ahead and think, well, in 10 years from now, am I going to be, traveling? Are all my kids going to be out of the house and I won't want any pets? So looking long view is also important. Look beyond just the next few months of your life to see if you're really ready to make that commitment.
That's right. Yeah. And I also know, and we've been dog owners, my husband and I, all of our lives before we even met each other. We haven't had a dog for the last 8 years because we do travel, and because my job, I'm in Montpelier half the year, and so it wouldn't be fair to the dog. So we try to borrow other people's pets, and I'm under strict orders not to bring Bean home. Cute as he is.
Yeah, he's a doll.
But some dogs also need a lot of exercise, and some don't. And I remember running into somebody, I think on a hike somewhere this summer in Vermont, who said we have to run our dog at least 10 miles a day, which is, that's a lot. That's the most I'd ever heard. And they, and some don't, and some are older dogs and maybe don't need as much exercise. So I think there's that you have to pay attention
Absolutely.
to. Right?
There's a great adoption success story right here in Middlebury. I see the family frequently. They adopted from us about 9 months ago, a big, young, reddish husky type dog who's was originally surrendered to the shelter, if my memory serves, because he was always running off, taking off and running, and this dog just loved to run. So this family was fostering him to begin with, and they would go running with him every morning, 2, 3, 4 miles, and that would kind of take the edge off. Well, they fell in love with him, and he was infinitely lovable, and now I see them around town, and they have trained this dog, who is also smart as a whip, to pull a stroller. so that some of the kids in the family are on their bikes, the dad is running behind the stroller, and Ruskin is pulling the stroller with a toddler in it. And I've just never seen a dog who looks so important and knows his place in the family and takes it so seriously.
Yeah.
But that was a difficult dog to place because smart dog. No, you're not going to chew the cord. I don't have a toy, so you can chew my fingers, but not the cord. Smart dogs are hard.
Yes.
They
Yes.
challenge you.
Oh yes.
And they take more than a lot of people are willing to give or want to give.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you really work hard to try to match the interests of the family with the needs of the
Exactly,
dog.
and the capacities of the family and
Right.
things like that. Yes,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And same thing, we always talk about dogs, and it is true they're a little more idiosyncratic than cats. But
Yeah.
similarly, cats have extraordinary personalities as well. And for some people, all cats should be perfectly willing to hop in your lap and curl up and keep you warm at night. And we have plenty of cats at the shelter who are far more independent than that. They might love you, but that love might be expressed by sitting across the room and staring at you, And they might never hop up in your arms,
Right.
or they might never tolerate a child picking them up. So the cats as well, like you really have to say, what's your vision of a cat?
Right.
Do you want cuddly and playful, or do you prefer aloof? Do you mind a cat with, we call it catitude?
That's a great word.
Hello, look at your belly. Cats have, look at your belly, my goodness, look at that
He's
little
getting
belly.
relaxed.
You're silly, is what you are. Catitude, cats have a low threshold for stimulation, and so, some cats have a much lower threshold than others, and you can be petting, and the next thing you know, you've just been smacked by a cat's paw with the claws out because they're done. They want you to stop. So that's
Interesting.
pretty important if you've got small children.
Yes.
So things like that. So cats are all, there's as challenging to find the right and loving match. Additionally, with cats, cats' comfort level is contingent on the familiarity with their surroundings. So if we have an outgoing social cat in the shelter, because perhaps he's been there for a few weeks and he's gotten used to everybody, you take him into a new home and he might bolt under the bed and not move for days at a time. And then the adopter might call and say, this isn't the cat that I was playing with at the shelter. So it's the education curve about, well, it will be, just give him time. He's completely, it's, I should have brought a toy, completely unfamiliar with your home, and he's doing what smart cats do, which is sitting back and waiting to see what's going on. So that's a big one.
That's interesting to know.
We have a rule of 3 for adoptions. 3 weeks is the amount of time it takes, 3 days is the amount of time it takes for an animal to kind of disassociate from the shelter, to de-stress and kind of break the attachment. 3 weeks is the amount of time it takes for an animal to... You are silly. Is this any way to be on TV?
I think he's very relaxed.
Is this any way for you to be on TV? Because you look ridiculous.
Not an alpha dog.
No, not at all. 3 weeks is the amount of time it takes an animal to begin to learn new routines. What time do I have breakfast? When do I go out? Where do I go out? What do the people in this house do? And then 3 months is the window of time where you finally kind of walk in the door and your animal's at home and he knows he's at home and he's really settling in and saying, okay, I am home now. No, the anxiety about change is gone. So it's just an easy way to counsel people on patience when they bring a new animal home.
That's great. And it's wonderful that you take all this time and educate people about what life is going to be like, and you aren't just sort of handing them out, because it's in everybody's best interest.
It's in everybody's best interest, and it's everybody's best interest, but very much the animals, because to go out and to come back is traumatic and adds to their cumulative stress levels.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
Does that happen very often?
It does happen, and it's okay when it happens.
Yeah.
We have an essentially... It's not no questions asked, because we want to learn about why the match didn't work, but we always take back an animal that isn't a good fit in the home, because the human-animal bond is too, it's too important, and we want it to be a happy one. We don't want it to be a source of constant stress or anxiety for a family. There's so many animals out there, but to your point of, do we ever turn down an adoption? Yes, in some cases we do, but in in most cases, it's not that we say no, but it's that we say not this animal or not at this time.
Right.
Like, oh, you just
Right.
moved into your new house and you're having your baby next week. Let's wait. Come back in 6 months and let's talk. So it's mostly just saying not right now or not this animal.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned something about an increase in behaviorally challenged dogs being surrendered. What's that about?
That's something we've seen a lot of this year, and in fact is a statewide and national trend in animal shelters. I think one of the reasons for it is that the very life-affirming explosion of animal rescue and transport from the South has led to a lot more organizations and people bringing animals up from the South. But perhaps not having the knowledge or base or the staff or resources to properly adopt them out. Homeward Bound is a brick and mortar organization with 14 staff people and solid finances, and it's a hard job for us. Someone who just brings animals up and thinks, well, I'll keep these 3 in my house till I find a home for them. I'll put them on Pet Finder and then I'll get 3 more. You can get in over your head very quickly, and sometimes when those animals are adopted out that way, the home-based nature of a lot of those rescues means that there's nowhere for that dog to go if it is a poor match or if it begins to display behavior. What did you find there? Nope. Oh, see, there's a puppy for you.
Okay.
Oh, it's a mic. Oh, is it my mic cover?
Yeah.
It is my mic cover. Very interesting. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Bean. You have a very good nose. Maybe you are a hound dog. I think that's one of the reasons.
So some of them may come up, and then people can't take care of them, and
we end up getting them. Yeah, and then we can address a lot of problems with training and resources, but it's a setback for those dogs. And it's cumulative trauma for them.
Yeah, and I would think that just you hear about the puppy mills in the South, or just people breeding and not even, I don't know, lots of stories I heard, and the transport's coming up. And so if we have that many more up here, then without the education, I mean, that just seems to be such a critical piece of it.
Education and regulation, frankly. The practice of animal transport and rescue in Vermont is not regulated. Anything from an organization like mine, a brick and mortar shelter like mine, to, Sally's pop-up dog rescue that she runs out of her house. There's no state oversight at present.
Do you think there should be?
I absolutely think there should be.
We'll have to talk more about that. I mean, one of my questions is always about what can the legislature do, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, I work with a couple of statewide organizations. The Vermont Humane Federation is one, and I sit on the governor's board of Animal Cruelty Investigations Advisory Board. And those 2 organizations have actually worked recently to submit a sunrise application review to OPR.
Good.
Yeah, and so I'd actually love, maybe we should take this conversation offline or have another show about it. I'd love to talk to you about state issues.
Yes, that would be great.
Because that also prevents that prevents institutional neglect, sometimes leading to animal cruelty and suffering. It's huge.
Which is a cost to everyone.
Exactly, taxpayers and nonprofit private sector.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, more to come on that.
Yes.
I'm going to switch topics a little bit. You have a program called Pet Corps, and I'm not well versed in that. So if you can tell me what it is and where do you see it heading?
Happy to talk about Pet Corps. Pet Corps is my baby program right now. My favorite thing to work on at the shelter. It stands for Community Outreach, Resources, and Education. And it's been around for about 2 years. We introduced it in the fall of 2019. And the genesis for introducing it was our strategic plan, again, the one that led to the new mission statement. Yeah. We got a lot of community feedback that said that we should be supporting owned pets in the community and helping people find spay, neuter, and help them take care of the pets that they have. Since that time, the financial gulf has really done nothing but get wider, and so there are more people in need of care and support. So our program is for income eligible pet owners. And it started out just with a little bit of offering supplemental food and flea and tick. We were thinking if we can help stretch a family's budget a little bit, then everyone, the family, people, and pets will be better off. Yep. We've now grown it to include basic wellness veterinary care. Every Friday for about a year now, we've been offering wellness care to pets, vaccines, exams, nail trims, ear cleanings.
So they can come into.
They can come into
so
the
you have
shelter.
a vet that comes over and volunteers.
We do. We have a contract vet. We actually have an on-staff vet.
Oh, great.
And so that's been going on for about a year. The program has about 90 clients right now.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Collectively, about more than 200 pets are being cared for. The most exciting part about PetCore is that we also spent the last 18 months maybe at the shelter fundraising for and renovating a room into a spay-neuter clinic.
Oh.
So we are able to spay and neuter shelter pets right on site.
Oh, that's great.
And we're going to, by the end of the year, being able to offer spay-neuter to the clients of our PetCore program. So that's going to be really beneficial for the community and also for our shelter animals, because one of the where are you going now, huh? You're going to slither off like a little weasel. Maybe you're a weasel, not a puppy. Veterinary care has been increasingly hard to access just because they're so busy. It's one of the pandemic.
Everybody went out and got a pet.
Yeah, something to the vet profession that getting appointments is really tough. And it's also increasingly getting more expensive with the specialization of veterinary care, just like human medical care. So we're hoping to be able to provide something very fundamental at the opposite end of the spectrum from, a high level private specialized practice. So that's where we're thinking of taking PetCore slowly down the road. We're also talking about taking it on the road because a lot of our PetCore clients don't have reliable transportation. Tri-Valley Transit does a terrific job. We use their volunteer drivers to pick up people for appointments. But it occurred to us that if we could take it on the road and, maybe once a month host a clinic in Bristol or Vergennes, that we'd be able to reach more pet owners.
Sure.
It's hard sometimes to break out of the Middlebury-centric mode when you're at your organization is based in town.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That sounds like a fabulous program.
Yeah, we're excited about it. It's a whole, it feels like a little subsidiary or something of the shelter's main bread and butter of rehoming home animals. Yeah.
And that obviously requires more funding.
It does, yes.
And do you get any money from the state, or is this all private donations? How does that work?
No state funding, state funding, no national funding from the National Humane Organizations. We do, like all of the human social service organizations, we do receive appropriations from each town, but the rest of our funds are privately raised through private donations and grant funding. Yeah.
Okay, great. But it sounds like you're in good shape.
Yeah. It's been heartening to see the financial support the PetCore program has received, because it makes us know that people are happy to see us doing what we're doing and meeting a need in the community. Yeah. You're getting hot, aren't you? Yeah, I know.
Bean is doing a good job.
Yeah, Bean is doing a great job.
We've talked lots about dogs because it's so much fun, and there's a dog here. You also have a Paws on the Job, a working cat program.
we do. I love the name, Paws on the Job.
Paws on the Job.
We have a lot of, I was talking a little bit about cats, and their idiosyncrasies. I like to think of cats as living on a spectrum of sociability with people. And on one end of the spectrum, you have true feral cats, essentially wild animals.
Right.
On the other end of the spectrum, you have fuzzy little lap cats. And then all the other cats fall in between. And many of the cats we get at the shelter fall in between in a more ferally kind of way. They're friendly, they're approachable, they will live with people, but they don't want to be picked up or carried or cuddled or anything else. So we created this program, again, 2018 or 19, to place these kinds of cats in essentially businesses. Aubuchon Hardware in town has a couple of them. I forget which orchard has a couple, but it allows a cat to be placed in a business, a warehouse, a shop, and we promote their primary job as rodent control, and it's organic rodent control, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
The shelter has a working cat. She provides rodent control, and she also provides therapy to people who come in who are maybe upset or something. She's a very social little girl. So it just enables us to broaden our adoption market
Yeah.
and also to meet the needs of these cats.
Yeah.
They don't want to be confined to houses and forced
Right.
to wear frilly collars. They want to do their thing.
Yeah.
And so that's the Working Cat program.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it does feel great because cats have special needs and they're not always oriented toward humans.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's true. Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of really interesting creative things.
We're having
and
a lot of fun.
we need to wrap up now. Is there
Sure.
anything else you want to be sure to let people know about Homeward Bound?
We've covered so much ground. I guess, again, just logistically, I don't want people to come to the front door and be disappointed to see the open by appointment only sign. So please do call ahead, have people call ahead or send us an email. All of our contact information is on the website. Website's homewardboundanimals.org. A lot of information
I think
there.
that should be on the screen too
Yeah,
on this show, so you all can
Yeah,
look
so I
there.
think that's probably just a quick takeaway for folks in Middlebury
Yeah.
or Addison County is
Yeah.
please call ahead because we really hate to have you show up and, sadly, we
not
try to
be
help
able
if
to
we
see.
can. Yeah, exactly.
Cute
yeah.
puppies like Bean.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right, great. Well, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on the
for
show,
having me.
Jess.
This
It's
has
been
been a
great.
lot of fun.
That's it for now. My guest today has been Jessica Danyow,
And
Executive
Bean.
Director
You're
for
so
Homeward
happy.
Bound,
You need to
Addison
drink a water.
County's Humane Society, and her 4-month-old
Right.
puppy, Bean, who is
You
up for
are
adoption.
cute.
Thanks to MCTV for producing the show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.